2, 3, 4. Ready? Okay. Hello. I'd like to call to order the Board of Education meeting of September 11th, 2024. As we remember those lost in the tragic terrorist attacks 23 years ago today and continue to honor our first responders for their heroic efforts, let's also reflect on how communities came together to support each other and move forward. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Natalie, would you reiterate the executive session motions?
Yes, we met in executive session to discuss the record of a particular student, the employment history of a particular person, and collective bargaining negotiations.
Thank you. Okay. I hope the start of the school year has been great. Before the first day, the district's facilities team met with board members, toured the facilities, and has observed the exemplary work completed to prepare our buildings and fields for the new school year. These tours are a highlight of board service, and we thank the facilities team for their tremendous efforts. Tonight, we have several agenda items to discuss. Dr. Champ will provide an overview of the work plan, which marks the beginning of the implementation of the new 5-year strategic plan approved this year. We thank the administrators for creating such a comprehensive plan for moving forward. We also have Suzanne Volpe, an attorney with Kane & Bean, here to provide general information about registration and residency regulations. While we recognize that residency concerns may involve legal proceedings centered around children and their families, and so are not suitable for detailed public discussions, we understand the community needs basic foundational information. Please note that there is no question and answer during this part of the meeting, but public comment is welcome during the public comment section of our meeting. And lastly, we will be considering an amendment to Dr. Champ's contract, which is available on board docs. This includes a 1-year contract extension that renews each year unless otherwise determined by Dr. Champ or the Board of Education. The development of this amendment involved input from both the prior and current boards. My willingness to extend reflects Dr. Champ's performance in meeting district goals, hiring a strong cabinet, and holding deep expertise in advancing strategic plans and facilities plans. Finally, let's talk about flood mitigation. You may have seen the Low HUD article about Julian's Playground. I think it may be helpful to reiterate the Board of Education's perspective. We support flood mitigation efforts and understand the safety issues of the flooding in Pelham. We do not support providing an easement to the village of Pelham, even if as community members we support the project. An easement would mean the district retains ownership of the property, which presents liability and management challenges and limits future educational use of the property. We attempted to negotiate a property swap or sale in good faith, and we're cautiously optimistic about getting a plan to the community for a vote, which is the usual process for transferring property. The village of Pelham chose to pursue eminent domain, a legal process requiring appropriate legal counsel for the district. We still hope to transfer the property through a reasonable settlement agreement and without a lengthy legal proceeding. I spoke with our attorney today, and we might not have an update for a few more weeks as the village of Pelham is approaching the deadline for filing the eminent domain proceeding with the court. Lastly, Mayor Lapie and I spoke today with respect to the stormwater sewage pipe at Glover that may need repair as part of the village of Pelham's flood mitigation efforts. I was assured that the school district and Board of Education will continue to be involved in planning efforts for this potential project that requires guidance from a county agency, the DEF, the Department of Environmental Facilities, because the pipe serves 3 municipalities while being located on school district property. Let's please approach these important topics with a spirit of collaboration. Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to section 3. We can take 3.1 and 3.2 together. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of July 2nd as well as August 1st?
Second. So moved.
Okay. Any questions or comments? No? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. I dropped my gavel. I'm going to leave it. Okay, next we can move on to administration and committee reports. Dr. Champ?
Thank you so much. I am really excited about the opening of schools as well. In the spirit of respecting time, I am going to ask if it's possible that we could let 4.2, move 4.2 to go first, so that our
Yes.
attorney can present her presentation and give her the rest of the night with her family.
Yes,
So-
please.
and then I'll resume my additional reports.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. So to my husband and son, who they miss me terribly, I'm sure. So board has asked me to come and present a little bit about student enrollment and student residency. And what I'm going to do is talk through New York State law, New York State regulations, and we'll go from there. Okay? So first, student enrollment. It's set forth in New York State Education Law, Section 3202, Sub 1, in pertinent part. A person over 5 and under 21 years of age who has not received a high school diploma is entitled to attend the public schools maintained in the district in which such person resides without the payment of tuition. Now you'll see a ... there. That means that there is more to the particular section, but this is what's important for the purposes of this conversation. So what you'll see in that definition are 2 major points. One is age, right? Student over 5 and under 21 years of age, and then they're entitled to attend in the district in which such person resides. So, age. The age of an applicant for enrollment can be verified by a number of different documents, including, but not limited to, certified transcript of birth certificate, baptism record, and in some circumstances, other documents that families may have in lieu of a formal birth certificate or baptism record. Residency. Residency is established by 2 factors. First is their physical presence as an inhabitant within the district, and the intent to reside in the district. So it's 2 factors, physical presence and intent to reside. Physical presence, the fact that one owns or rents or owns a house or property in the district, or even pays taxes in the district on its own, is not enough to confer resident status. Person must also reside within the district. The intent to reside within the district can be demonstrated in a number through various factors. There is a presumption written into the law that the students reside with their parents. Okay, so a little bit about the process in the district. The application for enrollment is through an online portal. Certain required documents must be submitted through the portal as well. Each application is reviewed individually by the registrar in consultation with the Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning and legal counsel if necessary. If the enrollment application meets the legal requirements under the Education Law and Part 100.2 of the Rules and Regulations of the Commissioner of Education, enrollment must begin on the next school day or as soon as practicable. I'll just note here, and I'll note it later, the presumptions in the law are in favor of enrollment and enrollment as soon as possible. So that's the goal of these regulations, is to enroll students and get them attending school. If the enrollment application does not meet the legal requirements, the student may not be enrolled, and such denial of enrollment automatically triggers the parent guardian's right to appeal such denial. Okay, and that information has to be given to a parent or guardian who's denied enrollment in the district. Okay, that's enrollment. Next is residency. I feel like I'm missing a slide, but that's okay. Residency disputes. How does a residency dispute arise? A residency dispute arises in one of two ways typically. One is upon application for enrollment, which I just discussed, and two is during the school year. Typically, the way that a dispute is begun is with the receipt of a residency check form. That's a district form, which can be triggered by any number of circumstances. And that form is sent over to the Assistant Superintendent for Business. It can be triggered, as I said, by any number of circumstances. Each residency check form is individually reviewed and evaluated by the Assistant Superintendent for Business in consultation with legal counsel if necessary. Now, depending upon that review of the residency check form, it may give rise to additional action. Okay, this additional action could include a residency investigation. What is a residency investigation? It's conducted by the district's residency investigator. It can include a records review. It can include surveillance. But it's important to note that the particular circumstances of a residency check form and any information that's uncovered determines what the investigation requires. It's done on a fact-by-fact, case-by-case basis. Okay, residency determination. The process by which a residency determination is made is set forth in the rules and regulations of the Commissioner of Education. I'm not going to give all the details because it's quite lengthy, but in short, it's a two-step process by which an initial and then a final determination is made. Between the initial and final residency determinations, the parent and guardian by law is given the opportunity, must be given the opportunity to present additional evidence to the district's designee for residency. And that additional evidence is evidence which tends to support the parent guardian's claim that they live within the district. So it can be additional documents and things of that nature. Any final determination of non-residency and exclusion from the district's rolls then triggers, again, the parent guardian's right to appeal such determination, and the parent guardian has 30 days to appeal that determination to the Commissioner of Education. So just to give you a little context, I'm sorry, it's very small. I'm sorry about that. So for the 2023-2024 school year, the district investigator and the district conducted 23 total investigations. The sources of those investigations, 19 the source of the information was a staff or an administrator, 1 landlord, 1 resident, and 2 were triggered by the investigator. The outcomes of those investigations, out of, again, 23 investigations, 4 individuals were confirmed resident, 13 non-resident, 1 homeless and displaced, and 5 incomplete, pending, or unfounded. Okay, so what we're looking at is, again, out of that 23 total investigations. The attorney hours spent, 70 plus, and the number of investigator surveillances was approximately 150 different surveillances over 23-24 school year. The duration of the investigations, the shortest was 1 day, and the longest is 8+ months. Again, it's all driven by the facts and circumstances of every particular case. So that brings us to the end of my brief response and my brief presentation, and I'm happy to take questions if anyone has.
Thank you.
Oh, no problem.
Thank you.
Of course.
I know that this is important to the community. I've talked to folks about it, and so I thank you for bringing this up. And I know, given our proximity, like this is a really important issue for the district and the community. Can you talk to us a little bit about some of the best practices, what you've heard? What are some tactics or strategies that other districts have used to really mitigate non-residents within the school district?
Sure, absolutely. Some strategies for mitigation, one of which I'm happy to talk about as the district is undertaking it in a step-by-step process, which is having a digital and digitizing all the enrollment procedures. And digitizing all of the address information into a database. Now, the value of that is it allows for an automatic flag if a family is attempting to register children for school in an address that's already on our rolls as occupied. Now, all that does is raise a flag, but it's important information which could help or could begin an investigation into whether or not that person or family does live in those premises. So that's that digitizing of that information, making that automatic is a good step. And I know the district is undertaking that in a step-by-step process as the kindergarten students come in.
Suzanne, could I just
yes.
add a piece of that
Please.
too, just a little bit of detail? We are, as you said, back in spring of '22, we started shifting to electronic registration for all incoming kindergartners. So as of right now, all kindergartens, first and second grade, are fully electronic and digitized. Additionally, at the same time, any new student in any grade that came in, we're also using the electronic registration. So we're on a path over time to become fully digitized. I will say in the interim, I know that the registrar, under Claire's supervision, and Dr. Bowman before her, does actively search addresses in addition. So right now, that triggering that Suzanne's talking about, we are watching for that, and we're doing it manually. But once we are fully electronic, it would absolutely give us a much more efficient, streamlined way to do that.
The other, what I've seen some districts undertaking is also a mandatory re-registration process. Districts around and close and far away in New York State have undertaken a re-registration process at the times where students are going from building to building. So what that would look like is you enter in kindergarten, you provide your registration information, your proofs of residency, your proofs of age. Then at your transition to a new school building, let's say it's a K-5 building, your transition to middle school, districts ask that their residents re-register. And what that means is they submit, whether they submit new documents or updated documents, and then you would do it in a typical K-5, 7, 8, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 district, then you would ask that the public do that again upon the student's entry to 9th grade. So I have seen that some districts are asking for mandatory re-registration, and I can, we could talk more. I could talk more about that or answer specific questions about it, but it is out there.
And some people might think that sounds like quite an appealing thing to do. What are some of the reasons not to do re-registration at whatever juncture the student may be?
So there's pros and cons, right, to any approach. I think some of the cons to a re-registration, a mandatory re-registration, has to do with the resources that the district would have to devote to tracking all of that data and tracking and making sure that it's all being followed up on. So, for example, an email goes out, your child is an incoming 5th grader, your child's an incoming 6th grader, you need to confirm your residency. So there would have to be a devotion of resources to collect, review all that information that comes in, so resources. In a district where there are concerns about non-residents attending without the payment of tuition, a re-registration could flag some situations, and it could also miss some situations. So it might not be a perfect sort of system to find non-residents who are attending without the payment of tuition. So those are just a few of the drawbacks. There's also some authority from SED, the New York State Education Department, and that SED, while it's not, has come out sort of against a re-registration. It's their feeling that because of the way that the laws are written and so in favor of the students enrolling, as opposed to disenrolling, that it's against, SED's sort of spirit of educating children. It is not banned by any extent, but they have come forward. So those are some of the drawbacks to that approach.
And Suzanne, can I ask just to further that, if say there was another district, from your experience, they're doing re-registration, a family doesn't re-register, does that an automatic exclusion, or are there additional steps at that point?
Sure. So it absolutely is not an automatic exclusion. What a family's failure to follow up or submit that additional re-registration information would likely give rise to a residency investigation. But it wouldn't necessarily mean you could unenroll that student from school. You'd have to undertake the investigation in the same process that you would for any other family or child who, it's been reported that they may not be a resident of Pelham. So you'd have to still undertake, it could cast a wider net, but you'd still have to take the same steps and undergo the same process.
When we look at the data from last year, COVID times notwithstanding, are those numbers in the ballpark of what we had seen, what we were seeing, or has there been a major increase or decrease?
I think I can speak to that as probably,
Yep.
Jim a little bit too. Not that he handled this prior to the pandemic, but I know some folks will remember in the Budget Focus, we used to publish the numbers on an annual basis prior to the pandemic. And I believe my recollection is they were in the same neighborhood. They could range in any given year from 20 to 30, 35 in a big year. So I think these numbers are well within kind of the traditional prior to the pandemic. As Suzanne said, I know, and I know she can probably speak better than me, but my understanding is that most districts during the pandemic stopped doing investigations because students and families were all over the place, or all over the world, literally. Really, since Jim's taken this over in these last 2 years, and this has really become our new baseline. So I know that there's been a tremendous amount of diligence and effort put into making sure that we are putting all of the due diligence and all the scrutiny on this possible. Jim has been in close contact with Suzanne for countless hours, multiple times a week. 70 plus just on investigations, but that's just this year. And there was a lot of time spent really making sure that our processes and procedures were in place. Our investigator, we've got a really outstanding investigator that we're using now. He's a retired law enforcement. He's a certified private investigator with a lot of different tools available to assist with this process. So we're confident that we've got a lot of competence there. And it's also someone who works with other districts too, so very experienced in this area, and does a great job for us.
Can I just ask a quick number about a quick question about those numbers? So 23 investigations, of which 13 were found to be non-resident. Of those 13, or are those 13 sort of include those that appealed and lost, or does that 13 include some who have appealed and have successfully appealed, or the appeal is ongoing? Because I know that a lot of these cases sometimes do end up in an appeal.
Yes, they do. Thank you. I believe, and Mr. Ricky could confirm, but of the 13 non-resident, that would include anyone who appealed and lost their appeal. That would include those. Any ongoing, I believe, the ongoing appeal, I believe, is in the unfounded ongoing bucket.
Okay, thanks.
Suzanne, could you, I know during the process of an investigation, a student remains, and very often the family would not be aware of an investigation until such time as they were notified that the district had information that they were no longer a resident. Can you talk about the notification and appeal process again?
Sure.
Also, I wanted to be clear, the student remains in school during this period, but then also once a student is excluded, and we'll ask about the appeal, what that process is and what a stay might be.
Sure.
Kind of how that mechanically might look.
Absolutely. So, as I mentioned, the enrollment process as well as the residency verification or residency dispute process. Both give rise to an automatic right of appeal within 30 days of the final determination, or the determination that the student will not be enrolled. As Dr. Champ indicated, the student remains in school. The idea is to limit the disruption to the student, right, while this is ongoing. And oftentimes, what will happen is the district will make a final residency determination. The parents have the right to appeal. And when an appeal comes in, this is an appeal to the Commissioner of Education. So it's a paper appeal. There's no oral argument. It's not in court, but it's to the Commissioner of Education. When the appeal comes in, often the parents request a stay of the district's determination that the student is not a resident. So it's a whole double, triple negative there. But what that means is the parents are asking that the decision be set aside until the appeal itself is completely decided on all the merits with all the legal papers submitted. The Commissioner of Education typically, I say more often than not, will grant a stay, which permits the student to remain in school, remain in attendance until the appeal is, finally adjudicated. So, that's, and the timelines on the stay process, the district has 3 business days to respond to a stay request. And what that means is, submitting and collecting data, collecting, what documents, what surveillance was conducted in the residency investigation, putting it together in affidavits, sworn affidavits from the district and the investigator, and then submitting that all to the Commissioner of Education. So it's a little bit of a fire drill, but again, that procedure is in place, and the 3 business days is in place, again, to favor the enrollment and the maintenance of education for the child.
I have a quick question. In regards to sort of the reporting of a potential non-resident, is there a documentation or a threshold where an investigation would be triggered, or is it automatic, or can you just talk a little bit about that process?
It's hard to generalize because it is so fact-specific. And again, a residency investigation can include a simple paper review. Maybe someone wrote the wrong apartment number on, right? It's something like that. Or it could include extensive surveillance. So it is hard to generalize in that regard. I would hate to do that.
I think this is a question more for Dr. Champ, which is, I think if somebody in the community has reason to believe that a student is not resident in the district, I think the kind of guidance or the request from the district is to approach the principal in the building where that student is being educated. And I just want to sort of question that a little bit, because and why and ask you why that is the right person to speak to if you're doubting somebody's residence. And that's because the reason why I question that is because building principals have, they have their number one priority is the well-being of their students. I think they all have, genuine emotional connections with the students in their buildings. And isn't it putting our principals in a slightly difficult position to sort of act in a way that could be, contrary to the best interests in some respects of one of their students? Might it not be better to have a sort of more dispassionate, objective person in the district be the point of contact for residency reports? I didn't ask that question very well, but
I think I know what you're getting. It is a challenging situation. I will be honest, as a former building principal myself, I had to deal with exactly that. Your hope is to have that positive relationship and supportive relationship with a family, but by the same token, as a building administrator, it's your responsibility to uphold district policy, state law, and regulation. The principal is generally the point of contact. In every district I've ever been in, the principal is ultimately the point of contact, or the best point of contact. And part of that on the positive side and on the supportive side is the principal often is the person who knows the most about any given child or family situation. So it could be that a student is perceived by someone to be a non-resident, but it might be the child's a foster child, or they might be homeless, or there might be some extenuating circumstances which, by all appearances, they may look like a non-resident, but there may be information that the principal is aware of about a family and a child's circumstance that they know the child is actually entitled to continue as a resident. So it's important that the principal is that point of contact because they really are the initial vetting place. And they are the one that can then know, is this a McKinney-Vento homeless situation? And yep, we got it covered and we're all aware of that and we're supporting the family in that way. Or is this a situation that needs to be escalated to the residency office? And that's something that the registrar would not know that information. The registrar should not know that information because it's very confidential to the child. So it's probably the best example of I think why the principal is as difficult as that is, really remains that statute or the vetting point, the best vetting point for a family situation.
Dr. Champ, while I agree with Will's assessment that it will be difficult for a building principal, but of the 23 investigations we did last year, 19 of them were internal. Are those internal, like just people that work in the building who've like escalated these things, or were there the principals who
I think
got a tip and then escalated?
Yeah, and I think Jim would probably have the best information. I think it's probably a mix. One of our, sometimes it's word of mouth. A lot of times it's return mail. There's several things that could trigger that information coming.
Yeah, again, having come through the principal is helpful. In some instances, it could be a staff member in that building sharing certain information with the principal, and the principal then having that information being the person to complete the paperwork to move it forward to the next steps.
I think Natalie's question was the 19 that were staff initiated. Does that include, like, parents came to a principal and then the principal reported it up, or is that separate?
I don't know that level of detail.
That's probably, we would probably want to look into that if you wanted the most accurate information. I really would.
Yeah, I wouldn't
not
want to
wanna
speculate.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have one question about the age of a student. So your presentation said 21, but 21 or under. There could be a situation or like a circumstance, like if you are a classified student, where you're allowed to be in school until you're 22.
Can you speak into the microphone, please?
The trigger that's important is the receipt of a high school diploma. So that would be the trigger, whether for a classified or non-classified student. So yes, there are circumstances, and Tracy's looking at me. I want to stay in my lane. But yes, there are circumstances under which a student with a disability, a classified student, would be educated by the district past their 21st year. But ordinarily, this is not specific at all to classified students.
No,
This is-
understood.
There are, yes.
Okay.
There are circumstances.
No, understood that this is not, but just.
No, I know you
Because
don't
we
want
are-
getting calls from people, he's 22. Yeah, I know. No problem, yeah.
One other point that I wanted to raise too, and I know a lot of the board may know this, but our district does have students attending who are tuitioned in through various different pathways. And I think that's something that maybe as well some of the general public may not be aware of, and there may be times where people mistakenly think that there are students here who reside elsewhere. We have, with some of our collective bargaining, actually all of our collective bargaining agreements do have a provision for staff to tuition their children into the district. And we have board policy that also guides that, as well as any of the other tuition in situations. We have students in some of our special education programs that come to us from other communities, tuitioned in. We do have a section of the Bronx, I think we affectionately call it Diplomats Row.
Politicians, right?
Politicians
Judges
Row.
Row.
Judges Row,
believe it's
whatever it
Judges
is,
Row, yeah.
longstanding municipal agreement that I think dates back to the 40s, where New York City pays, reimburses us tuition for those students. And then we do have a few private pay students, which kind of legacy students that have been in the system. The district did at times accept private pay tuition students. The last several years we have not because of our capacity issues. So I just think it's important to know that there are out-of-district residents who are tuitioned into our district as well. So that could add a layer of, confusion around, students that are knowingly don't live here but do attend our schools. And in each case, there is a legal pathway for them to be here and financial tuition that is backing those attendees as well.
Suzanne, I don't think you mentioned this, or if you did, I missed it. During the appeals, I assume even though, there's like a formal appeal to the
Commissioner of Education.
Commissioner of Education, I assume that's a confidential process at that point?
Yes.
Although I think there are like opinions that come out eventually that are public, but anonymous?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, the process is confidential. The legal filings that we send go straight up to SED. There will come a time where a decision is rendered, typically identifying details. Not all identifying details, but they're typically, students are referred to by their initials. So, but the name of the district is intact.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it for our purposes, like, even though something eventually becomes public, the whole time the process is going on, it's all confidential. It's not something that we're in a position to talk about
Absolutely not.
for the public.
Yes, no. That would all be protected information.
Is there a set amount of time, or these all depend individually based upon the facts of each case?
Yeah, I can't speculate as to a general amount of time. I can't even give you an amount of time that the commissioner's decisions take. It can really be anywhere, any amount of time. But again, it's all very fact specific, and we work very closely with the district's investigator in terms of figuring out, and they also, will speak to me as well in terms of, what else might we do, what else can we look at when examining a particular residency dispute.
All right, any more? All right, Suzanne, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We very much appreciate all the support that you provide to us throughout this process, both on the registration side as well as the residency side. So thank you for being here tonight and
Absolutely,
educating us.
pleasure to be here, and have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night, thank you. Okay, back to the
Back
superintendent.
to superintendent's report. Okay. This actually has 3 different parts to it. So I will try to move things along. Let's start at the first part while Chris is setting up for the facilities presentation will be the first display up there. Just wanted to provide just some oral report from my perspective on the opening of school. And again, thank you, Jackie, for recognizing the 9/11 and having a moment of silence tonight. I just wanted folks to be aware that all of our schools do that as well. So that was conducted today. We continue to include that in some simple measures to continue to educate our students on 9/11 so they understand our history and how meaningful that was to us, and continue to keep alive the memories of those who were impacted by that. We were, as a note that I sent out earlier a few days back, certainly saddened, again, about the shooting in Atlanta at Appalachian High School. That always serves as a reminder. Anytime there's any kind of school violence, it's a reminder to all of us about how important life is, how important our protocols are in making sure that our schools are safe. I know Jim plans to discuss that a little further in his report, so I'm not going to go into great detail right now because I don't want to step too much on his toes. But I do, want folks to know that this is a place where Alteris really steps in and helps us. They have live time updates on what's going on. They do debriefs that they share with us so that we can then take those learnings, unfortunate learnings, and work with our administrative team, work with our safety and security team and our safety committee to use those learnings to continue to evolve our processes. And Jim will talk more about that. I also wanted to remind folks that the second safety plan is still in its comment period. The board will remember we, by regulation, had to pass our safety plan. We did a 30-day hearing starting back in July. And in the midst of the hearing, the state made a change. So we finished and went ahead and approved our safety plan 1.0 and are now in the midst of the hearing for safety plan 2.0 with that midstream change. So I believe we'll be bringing that to you at our next meeting. I'm scared, thank you. Our next business meeting in 2 weeks.
And it's up
for
on the,
approval.
it's up on the website.
Yes, it's up on the website. If you have any comments or feedback, please email Jim and me with that, and we will review that and share that with our consultants and share that with the board for consideration.
Thank you.
Opening of school was really exciting. Since we last met here, we've been very, very busy. The week of August 26th, I'm going all the way back there, but I think it's worthy of note. We had a full day off-site administrative retreat, which was wonderful. The focus of that was a little bit of team building, welcoming the new folks, and the bulk of the time was spent in working out the work plan for the strategic plan, which we'll be talking about a little bit later. So it was great to get everybody organized and ready to hit the ground running. On Tuesday of that week, Dr. Fitzgerald led and planned the new teacher orientation, which she may comment on, I think, in her report a little bit. So she packed a lot into one busy day, but it was a great onboarding, and it's not the only onboarding we do. There's continued onboarding for our new staff throughout the year. On Wednesday and Thursday of that week, we held Superintendent's Conference Days. And that plan was facilitated, thanks certainly to Claire's office, take the lead on that, but the entire cabinet had a hand in planning different sessions, as well as our administrative team had a hand in planning various sessions and delivering sessions, as well as alongside our staff developers. So it was a lot of preparation and focus on getting ready for the school year, and we were really excited to have what we believe was a very smooth opening. Jackie already mentioned we did have our facilities tour in the midst of that, so Jim will be walking us shortly through a presentation. Jim and I will tag team, I think, a little bit on a facilities presentation so the public can see a little bit of what the board got to see firsthand. And then, of course, Tuesday after Labor Day, we opened school, which was really exciting and a lot of energy. I think most folks know by this point, we, this year as part of our continued work on communications, are expanding Parent Square down to the teacher level. And any expansion of a technology system comes with, of course, a learning curve at various points. So I want to thank Alex Wolf for the training that was conducted on those superintendent's conference days with our teachers. There was a lot to pack in those days, so it was really just the tip of the iceberg of teacher use. We appreciate his efforts there. Part of those learning curves we discovered is, some of it's users, some of it's familiarity. People have different levels of comfort with technology and different procedures. So we worked out some kinks about timing of those teacher notifications going out. So thanks to folks with their patience along that. And then also, I very much encourage folks, if you do have a problem or concern with Parent Square, please contact your teacher and your building principal. Alex is also a great person to contact, but I don't want the entire district flooding Alex's inbox with things that might be able to be resolved at the building level. Really important to do that because we are the ones who can fix the problems. So I know that there was, we discovered some problems related to our inclusion classes being notified or being included. So just a little background there. Parent Square feeds off of Infinite Campus, which is our student information system. In our system, I don't want to get too in the weeds, but every single class that is offered is a different section. We're required to do period-by-period attendance, which makes a lot of sense at the secondary level when you think kids all have 9 periods in the day. They take class each period, so each thing that they're registered for makes a lot of sense. Elementary level, they're with the same teacher most of the day, so period-by-period attendance is a lot more convoluted and doesn't necessarily fit the elementary model so well. So the data that feeds Parent Square is only as good as what's in Infinite Campus. So what we discovered is in some of our co-teach classes at the elementary level, I believe it was, or situations where we have students from our special classes that also join general ed classes for portions of the day, the way that it was rostered was not feeding correctly into Parent Square. So we would not have known that if people hadn't told us. So thank you to the folks that reached out about that. We're working with the building principal and with Alex, and we're working on a workaround to make sure that that is corrected for all students, because we want every single student in our schools to feel like they are 100% part of every class the part of the team, the part of the class. So apologies for those errors, and thank you for the patience on working through those. So again, please, any errors, please contact us so that we can, it's a learning process for us as well. So as we take those broader steps out, we absolutely want to get it right. So a couple other items. I know last time at our board meeting we mentioned the digital device policy. I want to touch on that because now we're moving from theory into action. So I purposely went to the high school on the first day of school, just because I love high school, but also because I wanted to see how things were running. And I have to report it was night and day. And granted, it was the first day of school, and there's a honeymoon period, we understand that, but our kids were doing a great job, our teachers were doing a great job. And for folks who don't know, a couple small steps that we've taken this year that I think really have a big impact. Every classroom now has a little calculator holder. Some of us think of them like shoe holders that hang on the door, little calculator holders. All of our high school students are required to put those in, drop it in on the way in the door in every class. That is vastly different than what was required last year. And I've talked to Mr. Llewellyn just today, significantly different impact. And I know the one he told me, I think it was the second or third day of school, Dr. Tatone had to deal with one cell phone issue, which I think is huge, a huge difference from prior years. So again, it's not going to be perfect. Kids are kids, and they're, it's going to, as the year goes by, we're going to have to reinforce those procedures. But I think that's really gone a long way to accomplish what was our goal, which is making sure the kids are not distracted during class time. So of course, teachers have the latitude if there's an instructional purpose to allow students to use those. So that was one great step forward. And the other thing that the high school did this year is they did their best to schedule all ninth graders for lunch the same time. That was not done in the past with intentionality. What we did is we scheduled that in a period when middle schoolers are not there. So there's plenty of space in the cafeteria. Generally, it's 7th period for most kids, not everyone, because there are different customized schedules. But again, night and day difference in the hallways. So there were not kids sitting strewn across the hallways and stairs, and there were very, very few students who did not have a place in that cafeteria. So students during that lunch period can be in the cafeteria, they can be in the commons. And so it's really hopefully put some new practices in place that are going to help with connection, students being together, having that socialization opportunity. It's also going to, I think, help us on the facilities management side. There's going to be a lot less garbage in the hallway. Custodians are going to have an easier time. Our monitors are going to be able to really, make sure that kids are where they belong. And the kids are together. And I think that was the exciting piece to see. They were all together and they were enjoying that time. Another thing that we did, we've opened up what used to be the peanut-free room that's now open to the general public. We found a different solution for those with allergies because we do have some significant allergies and we want to make sure those students are safe. That has enabled us to open up, I think, about 35 seats, and it's air conditioned. So on some of these warmer days, it's a great place. So very exciting differences there. We will continue to come back to you with updates. And of course, I know Mr. Llewellyn is thinking about, between now and the spring, how, the work that he's going to do with a committee within the building to come back with some feedback and recommendations to the board in the spring. As we saw, and I know all the cabinet, we all visited all the schools and saw very similar experiences. Teachers really focused on welcoming students, creating classroom communities of acceptance, of inclusion, really supportive, supported by strong connections between students and students to teachers, laying down a lot of expectations for the year, practicing routines, putting that foundation in place. So really walked away from the first week of school with an exciting confidence in the year ahead. And it was nice to end the week with, and some of you, I think, joined me there as well, with a really special opening season football game at Memorial Field, which is really cool. I'd never actually been there before. Important to note, that was not our home game. That was actually Dobbs Ferry's home game. Their field is under construction, so they talked with us and partnered to rent Memorial Field. So it was our season opener, their home game. But it was really an exciting event. And I should add, the funding for that did come in part from us through the boosters. So thank you to the boosters. The boosters do give some funds to all of the athletics teams, and then the coaches work to decide how they want to put that funding to use. So that funding came from the boosters through the football program, who worked with Dobbs Ferry on that. And then the part of the fee for the game then went back to reimburse those costs. So that option is available to other teams should they choose it. And I will mention this too. I mentioned at the PTA Council, One of the things that we've done this year, a small investment, which we're hoping is going to be a big payoff, we created a stipended scheduler position for the athletics department this year. And what that is a person who's dedicated to handling the day-to-day schedule, because things change on a daily basis, midday. And so we need to have someone who's dedicated to that work, but also can do it with an eye towards equity of access to fields. I know that's something that continues to be, people have, again, perceptions or realities, we never quite know, but the reality is that we want to make sure that all students have equitable access to our fields and facilities. So we're hoping that that position helps us to maintain that. Couple more items. State assessment reports came out this week. And I know Claire's going to be talking a little bit maybe in her report tonight, and certainly a lot more to come in November about those results. I believe it's our first time using the parent portal for that distribution. So those are out this week. If you have any trouble accessing them, please reach out to your school principal. Coming out, Alex and I are working with Jackie in finalizing the board committee sign-up process. So each year we solicit volunteers from the community to participate on board committees. So we're finalizing that. That should be coming out within the next week or two so that we can seat folks on those committees. Certainly looking for new faces, always welcoming some new voices in the mix. Also looking for people with expertise in those specific areas to really help with the work of the district. So please watch for those emails. And if you've served in the past and want to serve again, you do need to sign back up. So please watch Parent Square for that. Two more things. Reminder, we actually have another board meeting in a week. It is a work session only that is going to be focused on facilities. So I just wanted the board to be, just to remember that. It's going to be kind of 3 weeks in a row. It's one of our busy times of year. I'm in the process working with Valerie. We're going to hopefully be assembling some binders to go with that. What we've discovered when we're doing a lot of facilities work, I know some of us are very old school. It's nice to have everything in one place you can put your hands on, you can make notes on. So we're going to start to assemble some binders that have got the relevant documents in it, and we'll build on those over the next couple months as we dig deeper into facilities work. We may be delivering those to your home if we get them delivered, get them assembled by Friday. If not, we'll bring them with us to the board meeting next time so you have those. I did also want to note that same night it is middle school open house. So we will not be meeting here. We'll be meeting in Alumni Hall. So I would recommend walking because parking will be a nightmare, but we'll be over there in Alumni Hall. And finally, I just wanted to take the opportunity to give a kudos to our high school teacher, Mr. Mark Sirico, who was selected as one of the top 10 finalists for the National Civics Teacher of the Year Award. It's an award that's being provided by the Bill of Rights Institute. Incredible honor to be named to this elite group, and we know the value and importance of civics in this day and age in particular. So we're incredibly proud of the work that he does. And I will note, Mr. Sirico was the key teacher working with Dr. Thompson in moving forward with piloting the Seal of Civic Readiness that we did for the first time last year. I think we graduated, I forget the number, I'm not going to say the number because I'll get it wrong. We graduated many students with, for the first time with the Seal of Civic Readiness out of last year's efforts, and we're now expanding that further this year, and you'll be hearing more of that over time. So kudos to him, congratulations, and appreciate his work. That is the end of my official opening of school report, but that's the transition to the facilities report next.
I
So-
actually had a question,
Yes.
Dr. Champ, or for Claire. The state test, I know they're on the portal, but is there any intent this year for the state to mail them out to people's home, or is it just going to reside on the portal this year?
It's on the portal. That was a district decision, I believe. If you want.
Historically, students' individual score reports were mailed home. This year, we transitioned to a digital system where those score reports can be found in Infinite Campus in every student's backpack. The cost of paper mailing contracting through BOCES was
I could imagine.
extensive. And so we kind of weighed the benefits, and at this point, we can certainly, if anyone does not have access or has issues accessing, we are happy to mail by exception or by request. Otherwise, parents can access in the backpack.
If anyone has issues assessing, I know some people may not be as technologically
Sure.
savvy as
Yeah.
others. So-
Yeah, so the instructions were sent home. You can certainly reach out to building principals or to my office, and we'll happily provide those.
Okay, so I'm going to transition over here. And I do want to start by, again, and it's already been said, but it can't be said enough. Thanks and kudos to Jim Rickey, Assistant Superintendent of Business, John Condon, our Director of Facilities, and our outstanding building facilities, building services team. 32 members in that team. Pardon? And plus student rep, I was going to go there, plus student workers that we bring on each year to turn our buildings over very quickly. And they do, I don't remember, Jim's got the square footage. He will mention that at some point. But to turn the buildings over, and I think it's important to note too, each school year, obviously, you know, the buildings get very well used, they're full year in, year out. But the summer, we don't stop. Many districts that I've been in have very limited use of the facilities in the summer, to the point where some of them literally are shut down, except for the offices. But our schools are different in that we are the center of the community physically, and our programs are used for the recreation programs throughout the summer. So each of our schools hosts various programs, so we're really open year-round. So between recreation, I want to get the program names right, is it Tiny Tots?
Yeah.
Tiny Tots. Between Tiny Tots and recreation, our facilities are used through most of the summer. When you come to the secondary buildings, then you also have our academic summer programs from our extended school year ESY program for special education students, our Summer Stars program funded through Title I. We have summer acceleration programs for earth science, algebra, and then just a variety of different programs that we run in particular in this building because it's air conditioned throughout the summer. This year, we had even, as we usually do, a couple of Regents prep programs. So a couple weeks leading right up to the summer Regents, there's classes for those students. This year, the Regents exams were administered on August 19th and 20th. And then all of our administrators came back the 21st. There was no break this summer, really is my point. It was a shorter summer than normal, and we had programming straight through. So I believe, Jim, was it 1 or 3 days that the building was not used?
Yeah, so it was the 3 days once school ended at the end of June.
Yeah.
Other than that, we were occupied
Programmatically
pretty much
through the entire summer. So I say that because our facilities team has to then clean the entire building and turn it over while it's being used, which is an added challenge. So they do an incredible job. So just a couple of highlights of what's going on here. And Jim and I are going to tag team a little bit. I know that I don't know all the details of some of this because some of it just gets handled, but some of it I do. So Imperial lot. This is the lot the parking lot that's up above Friendship Field. To be accessed, I think, from Secor Lane.
Yes.
Yes. So this was resurfaced with new.
Item 4.
What is,
Item 4 gravel.
Thank you. Item 4
So
gravel. So it's much flatter, much safer, much easier to use. So you can see the difference before and after. Preparing of the grounds, a lot of work done. Every year, all of our parking lots get restriped, asphalt gets repaired, different things like that. So just some pictures here. I know many of you, I don't know if there's a picture of it, I can't remember if the picture in here, Prospect Hill, you may have noticed, beautiful new blacktop. So all of our grounds get an overhaul, repair, and fresh coat of paint throughout the summer. I know many of you do know we had some tree damage throughout the spring and summer. So that was also something added to the to-do list. So these photos here are from Prospect Hill, cleaning up some of the limbs and trees. Is there anything you
And
can add
I
to
mean,
that?
I think as the board's noticed over the last few years, we've lost a few at Prospect Hill. The trees are really reaching the end of their life. So we plan on planting a number in this fall time period as well, when the planting period comes along. So Mr. Condon and I have spoken quite a bit about that.
Yeah, and we've encountered that at Siwanoy as well, some very
Yes.
old trees recently. Select paving, and again, this is the seal coating that I mentioned at Prospect Hill in particular. So it's a nice, consistent, beautiful black surface.
Yeah, this will look really nice. Again, it preserves the life of our pavement, and certainly that helps us out. Also at the school level, they're putting in some new play lines. So I think the painting will really pop on those play lines, and the students will really be able to enjoy it.
Yeah, and we're appreciative to the PTA who's going to be helping out with doing the painting for those new play lines as part of, I think it was a PEF grant
Yes.
that sponsored that. So again, also appreciative there. So that championship season, this is a special project We got our middle school floor resurfaced this year at no cost to the district. And Jim, you want to fill us in on that story?
Yes, if you recall last year, we resurfaced the floor, just put a new finish on it, and what we found was that the quality of the finish, it's a water-based finish, it really didn't blend well with the floor. And Mr. Condon doggedly worked with our vendor, and through those efforts, the vendor relented and graciously agreed to resurface the area at no cost to the district. So we were really excited about that. Certainly, as you can see, it's a full strip down to the wood floors. And then I think so the stripping down is on the left. And what you see on the right is the finished product. And I think folks are really happy with how it came out. And our students for years to come will be able to enjoy it.
We've got new swing replacement at Prospect Hill. That was a result of a tree issue.
Yeah, the stump is still there. The kids seem to like it, so we may leave the stump for a while, but funny enough. But yes, so that went in just about 2 weeks ago. So again, kids are going to enjoy it, and that's terrific. So.
Of course, one of our ongoing projects is converting to LED lighting. It's more sustainable, it is more cost-effective, and it's a brighter light. So middle school lobby is one of the areas that I think you will definitely notice more of a surgical room feel. I'm joking, but definitely a brighter feel there than what used to be in place prior. Another big project this year, continuation of replacement of floors at Prospect Hill. The prior summer we did the top floor, and this year we did the main floor, and that's involved asbestos abatement. So it's always a big project with notification and then air monitoring afterwards. So again, another beautiful look to those floors and bringing more consistency to the painting of trim along that hallway as well.
Yeah, and I think just touching a little bit on what Dr. Champ mentioned earlier about our buildings being used consistently, and we have to thank Recreation, but the first part of this job was asbestos abatement, and when we're doing that particular project, we don't want people, our young people in the building. So this abatement work took place immediately after school ended, and Recreation postponed camp for 1 week at Prospect Hill in that time to get it done. So there's not a lot of time to work there, and through the coordination of efforts and people being very reasonable, we were able to get a really great result here.
Of course, continuation of floors. We're very proud of our floors, but it is fun to walk around, to smell the new fresh wax and to look and see the incredible shine on our floors, to know that this is a 100-year-old building and has that quality of floor cleanliness. To start the year off is just something that I think we're all proud of every year. Again, part of our LED expansion project, LED lights in several rooms at Prospect Hill to bring lighter, brighter spaces to our students.
Yeah, Prospect Hill, we did 3 classrooms,
And
the main
new
office,
ceilings with those.
and the teacher's break room. So we got quite a bit of area there.
Yep.
Again, you get through. The lighting is really noticeable, and again, as well as it being less maintenance, more energy efficient, we just think it produces a better quality light.
Lots of power washing for outdoor spaces. The left is the darker, the right is the cleaner. I think if you walked up to the front of Siwanoy on the first day of school, it was just vividly noticeable how much brighter that is. So excited about that and appreciative of the work on that. One of the most fun is probably the new playground at Colonial. So we're happy to get that installed. New play service as well. No more mulch chips. It is the poured in place base. We're excited about that. And it is really nice too when Principal Garcia designed this. She definitely kept our ACES class in mind. So there are accessible elements right on the front of that set, accessible to all students. There's some high-touch, engaging, you can't see it well in this picture, but it's between the 2 people that you see in there, there's a little red pole. There's a whole line right there of interactive, kind of spinny things. So just really, really engaging kinds of things. There's a variety of other pieces within that. So we're appreciative, just really proud of her for doing that. I'm excited to have the students enjoying it. I think Tiny Tots got to try this out over the summer, right, when it went in.
They were the first implementers, yes, right.
But the students now are enjoying it very much. And it's done in red school colors. I noticed that, and I liked that, how that blended with the school. And I know at long last, some folks have been asking me about this for a couple years. We finally have a basketball hoop at the Hutchinson Playground. So that has finally been installed, and I think it immediately went into use. So we're excited about that. We are also doing some field work. I know we had talked about this, about the Hutchinson Field and ways that we could remediate it to be more useful to the community, to the students. So Jim, do you want to just provide a quick update on that?
Yeah, again, I think in working with our partners in recreation, our community members in the school, what we really found and heard was that there'd probably be more or better use of the field if the infield wasn't there. So our facilities committee, or the grounds group here, as you see, what we're doing is we're planting grass over that diamond area. And what we're hearing again is that just opens that field up to greater use for field sports, soccer, lacrosse. And from the facility standpoint, when the students aren't running through the clay at lunchtime and then coming back in the building, that helps just keep the building a little bit cleaner on the floors. And you know, those little pieces of dirt, they add up with all those little feet.
We're getting some big nods of approval from the former principal of Hutchinson School. So we're excited about that and hope it adds to the usefulness. And I think that brings us to the end. Jim, was there anything else that you wanted to highlight from the work? Just the
Oh, gosh. I really appreciate you recognizing the hard efforts of the people in the facilities department. They really take a lot of pride in their work. And again, a lot of them they have families and they like to take vacations over the summers as well. So at certain times, we found ourselves, say, down perhaps up to a third of our full-time workforce. And that's where our student workers really came in. And we're very proud of their work, too. And without our students, we wouldn't be able to turn it.
Yeah. And our staff does a great job. So we thank you for the work that they do. Thank you to Mr. Condon. Thank you for the whole team. Any quick questions from the board while I transition to our final portion of tonight's presentations? Okay, I know you got to see it firsthand. So one of the things we did say on the tour, and I will say it again, we'll say it next week as well, I know as part of our continued look at facilities, we're going to be getting our building condition survey we'll be talking about that at next week's meeting. Jim and I and John Condon got to meet with the architects this past week and get a preview of that as they're finalizing details. So we're looking forward to bringing that to you and having some conversations. We will plan to, following that, plan to do some site visits as well, so the board can see some of those conditions firsthand, and that will help us to not only visualize it, but then to help as we prioritize. So looking forward to more time spent there. So finally, I know that we've got our board goals, which is something that we worked on at the retreat, facilities being a piece of that, finance a piece, and communications. Those are the board goals for the year. And we kept those somewhat streamlined this year because of the launch of our new strategic plan. So as I said earlier at our August retreat, the administrators spent basically the bulk of 3 days focused on fleshing out a work plan to deliver on the strategic plan that the board approved back in June. Just as a reminder to folks, the strategic planning process went on throughout last spring. It was right here in this room for several days, several half days and full days, and we had a process that kind of evolved as we went through, because we wanted to make sure that we had sufficient stakeholder involvement from the right group of stakeholders. So you see here, we have our consultant in the middle there, but you see everything in these photos from administrators to teachers to board members. All of the board served on this planning committee, as well as students. And that gave us, I think, really solid perspectives, great discussions, and a lot of time with some very thoughtful dialogue spent designing the plan. And just as a reminder, we also did surveys to the community, to staff, to students. So we had 1,900 survey responses, which hit our goals for pretty solid engagement, reliability. We had 150 people participate in focus groups throughout the spring as well. And there, as I said, over 40 of us were working together in this room over those days to put together the plan. And as part of this year's this time around with the strategic plan, and we asked in addition to the plan itself to spend some time defining and refining 3 pieces that we didn't necessarily have in place or hadn't updated in a long time. So clearly articulating a mission, clarifying and updating our vision, and also identifying core beliefs that can undergird everything that we do going forward. So our mission is defining what we do now for whom. What is our mission? What is our job every single day as a district? Our vision, where do we want to be? What does it look like? Our ideal future, and then our core values, what are the things that principles we're going to stand by as we make decisions and do our work together. So difference between mission and vision is really what you just said. One defines purpose, one defines the ideal of where we want to be. So who we are, and then where we aspire to move to in the future. So there's a familiar phrase to all of us. It actually was a motto in the past. Through consensus process during the strategic planning, we did agree that moving forward, we're going to make this our official mission. Who we are, what we do every day. This is our purpose to be. It is short, it is memorable, and it is inspirational. Those are the 3 descriptors of a mission, so we thought this fits the bill. It's something that we're all so familiar with and committed to. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, so let's make it official. So this is our mission going forward, inspiring a standard of excellence for all students. When we looked at our vision, the existing vision prior to this was dated back to 2000, so it was almost 25 years old. It was excellent, but there were many pieces of it that we felt we really had achieved, and it was time to update the language. It was also incredibly long. So this is the vision that the group came up with. It is still somewhat on the long side, but I think what it did is a great blend of the former vision. It's an updated version of that former vision, but also incorporating elements of the strategic plans and the preambles to the most recent one that were still relevant and important to us. So the Pelham School community challenges and inspires our students to become knowledgeable, creative, critical thinkers who make ethical choices. We empower students to explore and pursue their own paths to excellence. That was a really important point from everybody when we're talking mission and vision. Students pursuing their own paths to excellence. We embrace diversity, foster belonging for all, and emphasize service and citizenship. We promote well-being and provide a supportive academic environment district-wide. Our goal is to prepare students with skills to adapt and flourish in a changing world. And then from there, we went on to define our values. So community and belonging. These seem to pair naturally. So grounded in a culture of respect, service, and inclusivity, and collaboration, and informed by tradition where all voices matter. Tradition is huge. That came out in all the groups. So we felt that these 2 captured those values well. Wellness and balance, another important pairing. So promoted and supported by an environment committed to the development of overall well-being. And then if you do those things, it will foster these learning and growth. Empowered by a rigorous and relevant environment that fosters critical thinking, flexible problem solving. So those are the values that we're going to continue to weave into our work going forward. And then these are the 3 strategic priority areas, and the board is familiar with these are the ones that we identified at the end of the process. From there, we went on to identify specific objectives within those different areas of personal growth and achievement, et cetera. So to get a bit more specific, fostering high expectations, maintaining deep, robust, and well-grounded programs, continuing to develop evidence-based interventions, recruiting and hiring. So a variety of different activities that are going to be under that umbrella of personal growth and achievement. We also identified 4 to go under belonging and wellness that had to do with fostering belonging for students, enhancing support systems, looking at our culture, and balancing personal growth with achievement and well-being for our students, and a foundational one that was widely embraced, cultivating a culture of dignity, kindness, and civility. Something that I really think is a hallmark of our district, and continuing to put intentional effort in that area. And then finally, strategic objectives under the facilities area, facilities and sustainable learning environments, evaluating, developing, and implementing sustainable short, mid, and long-term plans for facilities, which we're going to be spending a lot of time on this fall, as we've already talked about, aligning use of space and time to curricular objectives, reviewing and updating policies, which is the work of the board, and creating spaces that cultivate human collaboration and connection, again, which we've already talked about at the high school. How do we use scheduling and facilities to facilitate more opportunity for students to engage and connect with peers and with mentors, adults in their lives? So continuing to find ways to do that. So when it comes to the action plan, I know this has been shared with the board, and as we finalize things with the administrative team, we will eventually be posting it to our strategic planning website. It was 26 pages. We're not going to go through 26 pages tonight. What I tried to do was to kind of capture the flavor of what that work would look like. There is a lot of overlap between the different areas, and in the full plan, you can see that there's some cross-reference to different things, which is logical. But these are some of the general activities that the administrative team and I worked on, along with the cabinet, of course, to identify and to direct our work this year. So data review and reporting processes. That's something, it's work that we've started over the last couple of years. We've always had data that we've used for instructional purposes internally. What we've been working on over the last couple of years and will continue to advance in is making sure that we have efficient and effective systems and processes in place. Data dashboards is a word we used a lot in the last couple of years. So continuing to build on the foundation there, and also looking at internal use as well as a little bit more external use. So that's areas of growth for us, and then making the better and better use of the systems that we have. The two main systems we've been using, Branching Minds and DataViz, we're going to continue to grow on that. Claire and I have been talking about an additional system that may help with some external data called School Meter. This is something we'll be onboarding this year. So how do we continue to expand in our growth and use of data to inform our work and to help give us tools to direct our work? Continuing to grow in our MTSS system, multi-tiered systems of support. We tried to stay away from acronyms, but I know there's a lot of educationese. So again, that is a long-term process. We've got a great foundation there, especially on the academic side. So how do we continue to grow in those processes? And then how do we start to look at the social emotional side of the MTSS equation and get more systemic and systematic with that? Program planning. That's something that we've talked about as a board when we look at budgeting. How do we know that we're getting the results that we want out of the programs that we've invested in over time? We need a process to start to analyze those and do some program review. We cannot do it all in 1 year. We have to be very thoughtful and strategic and start in small nuggets. So Claire's going to be working through the Authentic Learning Committee, through working with the administrators, on a couple areas of program assessment and analysis this year that we'll be sharing with the committee and, of course, reporting out to the board. One of the starting places, of course, that we've been talking about, but that I've asked her to start to look at is this whole pre-K, early education program. So that's really going to be kind of where we're prioritizing. One of our starting places is looking at pre-K and what possibilities there may be for us. Bolstering our HR processes, the whole pipeline and everything having to do with HR, including looking at a staff recognition program. Those are things that Dr. Fitzgerald will be working on this year with the team. And paired with that, strengthening professional learning through having stronger feedback loops and implementing more choice into our professional learning opportunities for teachers. We're also going to be starting a professional learning, resurrecting Professional Learning Advisory Committee. It was something that was in place before the pandemic. It was an opportunity for teachers to give direct feedback and input into things like professional learning and innovation opportunities. So we're going to be resurrecting that this year to try to work in that area. And then another opportunity that's somewhat exciting is evolving evaluation processes. And some of you may know, I, of course, did my dissertation on the teacher evaluation system, so it's a personal area of interest. But the state changed regulation around the teacher and principal evaluation process. They've now approved new regulations. I believe it's now 32, what is it, 3212? It's version E. We're up to the 5th version of the teacher evaluation, principal evaluation process. The state has given us 8 years to figure it out. So we're going to take this year to start to look at what our best practices, look at research, look at what are the goals that we want out of our evaluation system, what are the best practices in designing effective evaluation systems for feedback and development, and then hopefully within a year of study and planning, and then potentially piloting a year from now with full implementation following that. That's something that does have to be negotiated with bargaining units per the new regulations, so that is something that we'll be working collaboratively with those units on, but we're going to be starting that work this year. When we move into the belonging and wellness, the big categories of work that stood out to me from our plan, And this is something, again, we've been talking about a lot in a lot of different venues, whether it was our work with Pelham Together, our work with the PTA Council, our work with the administrative team, assessing our cross-building and within cross-grade level opportunities for students to work together and then trying to supplement those. So specifically, we've talked over the years about how do we provide more opportunities for students across 4 elementary schools to get together and know one another before they get to middle school. We've got some, kindergarten play date, we've got 5th grade field day. We don't have a lot of intentional in between. Recreation programs have opportunities for kids to get together, but we've always talked over the years about how do we build more of those. So Claire and I'll be meeting with our school culture coaches. They've already started to draft some ideas about how we might start to weave opportunities in the more intermediate grades. We always talked back when we were doing the 2018 bond, we designed Hutchinson with a large gym and with a bus loop in the front so that we could bring all students together for these kinds of opportunities. So it's time for us to start developing those opportunities and start making those things happen. So we're excited about that work. There'll be more to come on that. So first we're going to need to assess, then there's going to need to be planning time, and then over time we're going to grow those opportunities. That also includes opportunities for our older students to mentor younger students as well. So whether it's within the high school, upperclassmen to freshmen, whether it's high school to middle school down to elementary, what are ways we can strengthen those ties of the fabric for our kids to help with transition in school culture. As I mentioned already, expanding the seal of civic readiness. And again, I'll also mention strengthening our staff onboarding, looking at that whole pipeline and looking for ways, getting feedback from our teachers, seeing what those needs are, and building in more supports along the way. Examining evolving protocols and learning spaces to support staff well-being and learning. That's something we'll be looking at through our facilities work as well. Not just how much physical space and infrastructure do we need, but are there things that could better support safety? Are there opportunities that we could build into our schools that could help better support well-being for our staff and students, and that could help better support learning? Do we need to update some of our learning spaces to be more 21st century? What does research show us about the ways that facilities can help to provide better settings for students? So we'll be doing that in the coming months through the facilities work. And then we're going to continue again with the theme of data, using data and research to continue to promote positive school climates of inclusion and balance for students and staff. And another piece that we've talked about, we've done in the past, we want to continue to do and maybe supplement is work, especially with Pelham Together and with our PTA Council, and with the talents of each of our building leaders and the staff within our schools to continue to offer parent education on relevant topics. As we said before at our last meeting, the theme for the year is We Are Pelham. So how do we put together some opportunities for not only our kids to connect to become part of We Are Pelham, but also our parents to connect across buildings, parent education opportunities across buildings that can help strengthen those ties so that We Are Pelham becomes a reality at all stakeholder groups. Finally, moving into the facilities and sustainable, we've talked a lot about this already, so this is real brief. So conducting short and long-term capital project planning. That's what we're going to begin at our work session at our next meeting next week. Updating our long-term financial plan, which is an annual practice, but it's also going to be critically important as we start to look at facilities and figure out how do we deal with our facilities needs on both a short and long-term basis, because it's not always just one answer to that question. There's probably multiple strategies that will be needed. Undertaking our facilities analysis, as we said, and then reviewing and updating board policies. I thought it was important to reflect it here as well, because that is the work of the board. We did receive an updated audit, and that is a service that our policy service provides to us, where they go through our manual, give us basically a spreadsheet of the things that need to be updated so that we can set a course to make sure that our policies are up to date. So that's work that we'll be scheduling those meetings out as things get up and running for this year. So next steps from here on the strategic plan. I have been in conversations with our consultant a couple times over the summer, and as recent as this week, designing what will become our dashboard related to the strategic plan. So we'll be meeting with the administrative team next week, finalizing what those strategic indicators are. So what are the things that we're going to kind of have as public-facing steps towards measuring our progress on the plan. There, again, 26 pages is way too much to have an indicator for every single thing. We thought, what are some of the bigger picture pieces of the puzzle that we could put on a dashboard that could be meaningful? So we'll be finalizing that And then the consultants already started to build out the updated dashboard. Our target is to have that ready to show you at the September 25th board meeting, to have that decisions made, built, and be ready to share that with the board and then open to the public at that point in time. So that's where we are. Any questions? Okay. And I know the board got to see a lot of the detail on this, so I know that probably answered a lot of the questions. But we're excited about it. I think we're all really happy with the way that the plan turned out, and really excited to continue the work and build on the foundation of the last 2 strategic plans that I think are very well embedded in here. But these are going to continue to push us to that next level and move the needle, so that all of our kids continue to have the best experience possible. So thank you very much. With
Thank
that,
you.
we can go on to the next phases of the board.
I'm going to move up, because it is getting late. I'll move up communications and comments from the public. Come on up.
Hi, and I'm going to keep you here very late because there's a bunch of questions and stuff.
Okay.
But Stephen Chicane, 917 Washington. Specifically, I want to talk a lot about the non-resident policy and the presentation, so this was on the agenda. I guess first question, Dr. Champ, you mentioned tuition-paying students. So outside of special education and student and children of staff members, my understanding from years ago is we don't accept tuition-paying students. So what is the district's policy on that?
We haven't, we did accept them for a while. We haven't accepted many recently. So there are still some legacy students that had been accepted in the past that are still in the system.
Okay, but no new students are being accepted?
There's
who are
been a
tu-
couple of situations where families were here and moved and requested to stay. And because of opportunities to make sure their child's education was stable, we did accept a couple. And I'd say within the past couple of years, there was probably a couple of those.
Okay, so just wanted to clarify that. And you're going to have to kind of bear with me if I ramble or if I sound frustrated based on what I say. So the issue of non-resident students and families has been discussed ever since I moved to Pelham 11 years ago. As you know, we pay some of the highest property taxes in the entire nation, and almost 2/3 of our property taxes go to the school district. So it's disturbing when families are defrauding the school district and taxpayers and stealing services by educating their children here when they're not supposed to. And I'll also add that there has been a lot of chatter, right, from parents, students, teachers, and security staff about non-resident students in our schools. So I'm just going to go, in chronological order since June in terms of communications that I've had with you guys and responses and things that I've found. So on June 7th, I emailed the board and Dr. Champ because a resident had told me, and I'm not that person, observing children getting off the bus, the number 42 bus, and walking straight into the high school. All right, and that same resident told me today the same observation was made this week, that students are getting off the public bus and walking into the high school. That's a red flag. So Dr. Champ, when I sent that, and in the same email, I also suggested a re-registration process, which was discussed a little bit earlier this evening. So, Dr. Champ, you replied that, thank you for alerting us to this. Has anything been done in terms of observing, cameras outside the school, observing kids getting off the bus, if there are people coming from neighboring municipalities and using our schools?
So this is not a question and
Okay,
answer.
that's
so
fine.
but
I'll take
yeah,
that as a
we'll
no.
take-
So with respect to.
No,
the-
that's not a no.
Okay.
That's not a no.
But okay.
But I'm noting your question.
All right. The frustration is that I have emailed and then I get no response. So I'm forced to come here late at night.
And to that point, I just want to reiterate what was, I think what was stated during the presentation. There is a lot about residency that we are not at liberty to share because it has to do with private student information, confidentiality. So
Agreed.
just
I'm
because
not-
you
I'm
don't
not-
get an answer doesn't mean that nothing is done.
But it wasn't about anyone specific, but okay. So then in that same email, I did suggest a re-registration process. And the response was, and I agree with this, that if someone is found not to have complied or successfully re-registered, that doesn't automatically trigger an investigation. And my response was, agreed, however, that should be a red flag. And Dr. Champ, you stated earlier this evening that something simple as a piece of return mail is a red flag. Now, I personally had to re-register my child a few years ago. It was very easy. I'm a legal resident, I'm a taxpayer. It took me 20 minutes to do it, right? So if someone has their child here and is unable to re-register, that should be a red flag to you because it's very simple. All you have to do is give a utility bill or a tax bill or proof of residency. And that's something that, as mentioned earlier, and I'll get to it in a second, other districts are doing. So that's something this district needs to do, because I think the fact that you had to address this issue tonight, it is a problem and people are talking about it. So that's kind of the first issue. So another resident emailed the letter written by the Eastchester superintendent of schools, right? So that district is one that has implemented a re-registration process. And that district, I believe, has 3,200 students. And what they have done is they're re-registering students in 2nd, 6th, and 9th grade, right? So as the lawyer said earlier, kind of the entry points at every school, right? And as of July, they got 67% compliance with that re-registration. So I don't know what that is as of today, but their goal was to get to 100%. But again, they are taking this seriously. They have they hired a new registrar, and that's what they're doing. We have the resources to do it. And in that letter that the superintendent of Eastchester wrote, last year they found 32 students who were found to be non-residents, and their estimate of the cost of those 32 students was $1 million. Okay, so you all have that email. It was sent to you, right? So $1 million for 32 students. That's a significant amount of money for a district that's 50% greater than us. So if we're able to save 500 grand, 750 grand by just taking that extra step with a re-registration and raising those red flags, that's something you need to do. Now, based on that email from Eastchester, I filed a FOIL request over the summer. Okay, so it basically brought to my mind, okay, let's look at what our registrations are and number of students are for our entry points, right? So I asked for specific data on number of new students and registrations for 6th grade and 9th grade, right? So the entry point for the middle school and for the high school, okay? Now, actually, let me take a step back before I get there. In that other FOIL request, I also asked for the outcomes of all the investigations that were done for non-residents. Now, what was sent to me, and I think I sent this because I don't have everyone's email, I sent this to Mr. Treves and Ms. Marrero. The data that was sent to me do not correspond to what the lawyer just said. Okay, and I'll be happy to send it later, but this is what was sent to me. It said that in the 22-23 school year, between September and May, there were 13 investigations, and this might be semantics, investigations, residency checks, and verifications of suspected non-residents. So 8 of those 13 showed families were actual residents. However, the other 5 found that families were non-residents. So 5 of the 13 in the 22-23 school year, and that involved 8 children. Okay, so 5 positives, 8 children, all right, because families have more than 1 children here. Those families came from Mount Vernon, New Rochelle, Yonkers, and the Bronx. Last school year, again, this is provided by the district, there were 17 investigations and verifications of suspected non-residents. Two of those investigations were of the same family, okay? So that family was found to be initially not resident, and then another investigation found them to be an actual resident. Another 2 investigations were found to be residents, okay? So 11 of the investigations found that the families were non-residents, okay? So that's more than what council said. And those 11 investigations found that that was a total of 17 children.
I thought the number was 14.
Well, I'm basing it on what was sent to me.
Right, but the number that,
I don't know. I don't know if that was both years combined or not. I'm talking about last year.
I thought it was last year, but
Okay.
I have to run the tape.
That was last year.
Yeah, it was last year.
Okay, I'm happy to send you what was sent to me.
Okay.
It was provided by the district, okay? So it said 11 investigations found that families were non-residents. That was 17 children. They lived in Mamaroneck, 5 in Mount Vernon, New Rochelle, Yonkers, Bronx, and 1 unspecified. So we had 5 positives in 22, and then another 11 last year. So that's 25 total children. And if you don't want to answer it, you don't have to. But the question is, what happened to these 25 kids? Are they still students in our schools?
I can't speak to that.
Okay, that's problematic. Because if
No, I
you
can't speak to it for
definitively,
confidentiality reasons, I can't speak to it.
okay, but we have 25 children definitively found to be non-residents, according to the data you provided, and we have no idea if they are still students in our schools.
I'm not saying I have no idea.
Okay,
I'm saying I
all
can't
right.
speak to it
But
publicly.
that's an issue. That's an issue. Okay? So then, and I'm happy to pass this out to everybody. And this is just kind of analyzing data if you want to.
You know, once you can hand it to the clerk. She'll take care of getting that to everybody. To Valerie.
So as I mentioned about the enrollment data, so I asked for the 6th grade and 9th grade enrollment data, and data for the past 6 years was provided to me. So for 6th graders, there was a spike in new registrations in 2021 and 2022, which to me is expected because a lot of new families moved to the neighborhood after the pandemic, right? So historically, over the past 6 years, since 2018, there were 15 new 6th graders in 2018. Then it went to 12, 8, then 21, 22, and then 11 new registrations last year, not this past year. So it normalized last year after the two-year spike post-COVID. So the range has been kind of 8 to 15 new students every year, and the percentage of the total class that represents has been pretty consistent at 5 to 7%. Okay, so you don't see like big swings in the 6th grade. However, what caught my eye was the 9th grade data for last year. So last year, or we'll go through, beginning in 2018. In 2018, there were 9 new registrations for the 9th grade. And then in the subsequent years, it was 14, 9, 12 in 2021, 14 in 2022, and then last year it was 23. So a pretty big jump last year. And that doesn't make sense to me, given in 2023, there was a major decline in home sales in Westchester. So intuitively, to show a big increase in the number of 9th graders coming to our schools, when the number of homes sold here was much less than you saw post-pandemic in those 2 years, doesn't make sense, right? And the reason it caught my eye is I know that our class sizes are about 200. So 23 out of the class size last year was 201. That's 11.4% of the total class was brand new. And that should have caught someone's eye. That's something very simple to say, whoa, we have this big spike, home sales are down, what's going on here, right? And I'm not sure if we have a reputation of being too lax on the non-resident students, but that is concerning. And as I said, there is a lot of chatter about things that go on. Teachers are talking about it, security's talking about it, the community's talking about it. And I'm not urging you, I'm actually, kind of the community demands it, that you are more vigilant on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is anyone else would like to make a comment? No? Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have any committee, I'm going back to 4.3, Board of Education Committee reports. Do we have any yet?
Next
Not,
week.
not yet. Next week we will. And then let's move to 4.4, Assistant Superintendent's update on personal growth and achievement.
Okay, so good evening, and thank you for this time to highlight some exciting things that have been happening in Pelham over the summer and over the first 2 weeks of school in the area of teaching and learning. So we were thrilled to welcome students back to school 2 weeks ago. Overall, the Pelham schools have started the academic year with enthusiasm, purpose, and a commitment to student success. As Jim mentioned earlier, the schools are used all year round, and in the summertime, very busy places, and part of that is all of our programs for students during the summer. Sean Llewellyn and Drs. Maria Thompson and Janine Carr collaborate to oversee a variety of summer programs designed to support students across all grade levels. The Summer Stars program provided additional ELA and math instruction for elementary students identified by their teachers to strengthen foundational skills with a mix of whole group and small group sessions. Middle school students received similar targeted support focusing on ELA, math, and writing. And at the high school level, students were offered opportunities to prepare for August Regents exams in algebra and earth science, with specialized sessions aimed at those needing to retake exams or accelerate their studies. The district's commitment to student success was evident in the efforts of administrators and teachers who played a critical role in the program's implementation and outcomes. In the areas of math and science, a new science course was added to the high school this year, thanks to James Rogers, who attended the AP Computer Science A training over the summer. We can offer this course to high school students. 24 students are currently enrolled in this new course. Dr. Callahan was busy all summer preparing for the year ahead. He hosted 2 Pelham Together summer interns this year in math and science departments. They assisted with the preparations of new science examinations being rolled out in living environment, now called life science. And this includes organizing all the new supplies required for the new and extensive curricular shift. K-12 teachers engaged in summer curriculum work ranging from pacing calendars to next generation standards revisions, and this included creation of new, more inquiry-based explorations in math and science, which the NISLA standards are calling for. Pelham's Chasing Space Year concluded in June with, and it was highlighted in a July 22nd article in the Journal News. It was a year-long project that began by a visit of author of Chasing Space, Leland Melvin, and culminated in senior students going down to Hutchinson and partnering with the elementary students to design and launch rockets. There were many opportunities, community supporters of this project, including the Pelham Education Foundation, the Picture House, the Chamber of Commerce, Pelham Together, Pelham Civics, and others. And for 2 years, the new Pelham not-for-profit STEM advocacy group Mindset and the Pelham Public Schools Math and Science departments collaborated to make this learning experience a success for students. Summer has also included planning that aims to continue our STEM movie series at the Picture House every other month to bring additional author visits to the elementary level. In humanities, Suzanne Short, Director of Humanities, has hit the ground running and has spent her first 2 months learning and listening about Pelham so that she can contribute to enriching and enhancing the student experience. I spoke last time, 19 teachers engaged in Orton Gillingham training over 3 days in the district, which is a multi-sensory approach to teaching reading for all levels. And then humanities teachers were hard at work during the summer revamping and rewriting curriculum. We are pleased to announce people are concerned that for our annual spelling bee, we will have a regional competition for students to advance to. The worry is because the historical regional partner who hosted the Scripps Regional Spelling Bee is not doing it this year, but Suzanne Short has been working diligently to partner with Scripps to ensure that our students who participate in our annual spelling bee, which will happen again this year, will have a regional tournament to which to advance. And then just to our point earlier, according to my notes, more than 60 students earned the seal of biliteracy last year in its inaugural year, thanks to the hard work of Dr. Thompson, Mark Sirico, and the committee who worked on that. And their intent is to grow that program as we continue. In technology, John Sabalas, Director of Technology, and Alicia Del Mastro, our instructional specialist, hosted Pelham's first K-12 AI user group. They defined what AI is and its role in education, and all members are piloting 2 new teacher tools, Brisk and School AI, to support teaching and learning. The user group will meet throughout the year, provide feedback on the piloted tools, and also focus on creating guidelines for using AI in Pelham schools. The technology department also underwent massive software upgrade by transitioning from Windows 10 to 11 and upgrading all clerical desktops and upgrading all teacher laptop memory from 8 gigabytes to 16 gigabytes. And then in collaboration with Alex Wolf and the Office of Public Information, the team began training and implementing began a training and implementation for all faculty on Parent Square, which we already talked about briefly. Teachers at all levels have been trained in the tool and begin using it to communicate with families this year, predominantly at the elementary level first and beginning to leverage it at the secondary as well. As I think we all know at this point, New York State has released verified 3 through 8 assessment data last week. In the past, as we already said, those have been mailed home, but we've moved to the digital platform this year. All parents can access us and access these student reports in the backpack in Infinite Campus. If anyone is having trouble, please feel free to email my office. And then just a note, if your 8th grade student was in algebra, they did not take the math assessment in 8th grade. So I've just been fielding a few questions there. If you can spread the word, that would be great. Also happy to answer the questions. And then finally, with this data, as it has become verified by the state, our directors are engaging in data review meetings with each of the building principals to leverage the results and make data-informed instructional and professional learning decisions. We'll continue to review the data, prepare it to present to the board and the community on November 6th. And individual students, I already said, are available in backpack. Thank you. Sorry if I took too much time. Important note, September 17th, 12th grade college night, and October 8th, K through 5 curriculum night at Prospect Hill. Thank you.
Thank you. And you did not take too much time.
And I thought it was great that electronic results also you could see last year's.
Yes.
Oh, no.
Yes.
That's great.
Yes, and I'll say that if you're looking for Regents results, if your child was in algebra or Regents classes in 8th grade, if under the assessment tab, you can see those results as well. That's great.
Any questions?
Me?
Next is Assistant Superintendent's update on belonging and wellness.
Hi, good evening, everybody. So as Dr. Champ mentioned, it was an exciting time seeing our staff during Superintendent Conference Days. That is a time in addition to professional development and training. In special education world, there's a lot of, again, compliance that we have to be involved with. So we also offered staff time to review IEPs, set up related service schedules, determining who case managers would be for special education students, and overall prepping for the needs of our special education students and also students who have 504 accommodation plans. Also on Superintendent Conference Day, yearly we provide training for our special education monitors and this year our teaching assistants. They engaged in training sessions with our district behaviorist, BCBA, Eric Frantino, and that he helps them to prepare for their assignments as either one-to-one supports or teaching assistants in our special classes or our ICT classes. So it's important for that staff, and it's great opportunity for them to understand a little bit more about the needs of our students and the students they'll be working closely with throughout the year. I also had the opportunity during the start of school in the first couple of days to visit all of the ICT classes, the special education classes, our Foundations of Learning classes. So everyone was really great to see, lots of smiling faces, everyone off to a great start. Actually, just to mention, our middle school FOL teacher, Jen Kate, wrote a grant last year to the Pelham Education Foundation. We are waiting for her new furniture to come in, so it'll be very exciting to see that classroom get some new furniture, which will really help the learning experiences for the students in that classroom. About mid-October, that's what we're hoping. ICT coaching will be happening this year. We've got a couple of new teacher teams at the Hutchinson Elementary School, so that starts in a week or so, and tomorrow? Yeah, I think, yeah, in a week. And also, secondary middle school ICT teams will be also receiving coaching this year. I forgot to mention, I did get to meet with our SEPTA co-presidents over the summer to talk about planning. Amanda Palercio was returning as a co-president, and the new co-president that took over a space that was available is Jackie Mason. So it was good to meet with them and talk about their goals for this year. There's a change to the first SEPTA meeting will be September 24th, held here in this library, and we have guest speaker again, Eric Frantino, our behaviorist, will be joining and talking to parents about how to set up your kids for success for the school year. Organization, routines, and things that they could do to support their student throughout the school year. The counseling department is always a busy space at the start, a busy place at the start of the school year. I met with my department meeting with the director, Mr. Farrell, today. Just in the first week alone, the counselors did over 500 schedule changes, which keeps them very busy. And that's to work with students to adjust their schedules, either based on requested changes, changes that maybe were needed based on summer school or Regents results. So a bit of adjusting there. Next week, on the 16th and the 17th, the counselors are going to be pushing into senior classes to start the whole get ready to apply for college process. So they'll start to talk to seniors about applications, forms, letters of recommendation. October 17th, I think Claire mentioned, is our grade 12 college night, and we actually have an admissions counselor from Boston College who will be joining us that night, who will speak to seniors and their parents, again, about college essays, strategies for your application, early decision versus early action, what that means. So it's a good night to come, and again, if you could be there, it'll be great. As I shared in our my last report, our college visits begin tomorrow. So I shared the list. We've got many, many colleges coming to visit our students, which is always exciting. Pace, Columbia, Cornell, RISD, Union, Brown, Lafayette, all on the agenda to come visit and talk to our students about admissions opportunities. PSATs are scheduled for October 16th. That is computer-based. We started with computer-based last year, so that's really what's happening going forward. So we're, had last year as our test run. It went really smoothly, so we're not anticipating any concerns about doing PSATs again this year on computers. All sophomores and juniors take the PSATs. They're all signed up for that. And typically that day, the freshmen, there's some activity that I'm sure Mr. Llewellyn will plan with the freshman advisor, and then again we do a college boot camp for seniors on that day. And just to come, Mr. Farrell is also working with civics again on what the series will be this year for the career seminars. So that's to come. And just quickly, in nursing, also during Superintendent Conference Day, our nurses participated in professional development on a new Infinite Campus module that's open to them about how they will be recording student visits to the nurse's office. And also just quickly, just to mention to families and parents and guardians, a back-to-school health letter came out from my department, so hopefully you had a chance to read that. There's a lot of important information that's critical for our nurses to have on hand and make sure that we're keeping students safe during the year. So EpiPens, medication administration, so please take an opportunity just to read through that letter quickly. So we're making sure we're keeping everyone safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Next is Assistant Superintendent's update on facilities and sustainable learning environments. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped. Executive Director's update on human resources and leadership. Sorry about that.
Not a problem at all. As everyone has echoed, it has been a really exciting start to the school year, welcoming back student staff, but especially our new staff. And as you'll see, as we go through the agenda tonight, there's going to be a lot of more approvals in Schedule A, B, and C, especially in the extra duty appointments, the coaching vacancies, the substitute teachers, student observers, and interns. So it's been a really busy start. A couple of things I do want to highlight that has been really great is today Jennifer Keene Thompson, who is going to be the new principal of Hutchinson School, actually came for a visit today. So she hosted a meet and greet with families this morning. She met with staff this afternoon. And she's planning a meet and greet on Monday afternoon. So she is eager to get started, and so we're excited to welcome her on Monday as in her official duties. And Mrs. Kramer Gilbert will remain with her for the week next week as a transition, so they'll both be together next week. We did have a few resignations, really in the monitor department. One was a safety monitor, one was a general education monitor, one was a special education monitor, and they really, these folks just had a different career path that was, that presented themselves. And so they did leave us, and we are working to fill those positions and actually have filled some of them at this point, which is great. You know, we're really excited that we've had some leave replacements to fill, and we had a retired math teacher come out of retirement to fill a leave replacement at the middle school. Mr. Sowen, who, as Mr. Ricky had mentioned earlier, is a Pelham graduate, was a seasonal custodial worker for us, and is now a probationary custodial worker, and so we're really thrilled to have him join us. We've had some monitors that have joined us. We've had some substitute teachers join us. I'm really excited that we're going to be appointing Stephen Salvatore, who is going to be the shared elementary music teacher between Prospect Hill and Colonial. And we just received notice that our middle school secondary leave replacement music actually has accepted our offer, so we'll be appointing him next week. So those were our two big outstanding ones.
Great.
So it's nice to be able to sit here tonight and say that those are now filled. All the other positions that are still open are leave replacements that are not open right this second. So we still have a little bit of time looking for replacements for them. So we're in a good place. We still continue to be busy. And we're always looking for lunch recess monitors, so if anyone knows anybody, send them my way. As Dr. Champ mentioned, we did host our new teacher orientation. It's typically a 2-day event. This year it was down to 1 day, just given the busyness of that last week coming back. So Mrs. Jeanette Conley and I host that together. Dr. Champ welcomed everybody, and then we did something new this year. We actually had the 8 new teachers and the 3 new TAs participate in a morning meeting, and that was really intentional. It's a routine that we do in our elementary schools, and we do it to create a sense of belonging. So it was a twofold purpose there. It was to create a sense of belonging among this group of people so that they are not alone in starting their new Pelham journey, that they learn about each other, but it was also to model for how they can take that into the classroom themselves. So that was really exciting to participate in. And then Mr. Sabalos and Mrs. Del Mastro took it over and ran a technology boot camp and went over everything you need to know to get started in technology here in the Pelham Public Schools. And then Mr. Ricky and his team rounded out the day with a really great session on what do you need to know from the business office and who do you contact and all of that good stuff. So it was a nice way to start, and we got a lot of wonderful feedback of thank you for making me feel welcome here, but also giving me the resources I need to get started with students. This is really just the tip of the iceberg of the work we do with our new staff. So we do meet with our new staff once a month throughout the rest of the school year. We'll cover topics like special ed compliance. We'll talk about how do you build relationships through communication, the strategic plan, the MTSS tiered instruction, the list goes on. So we do have some big topics, and although we have them planned out through the year, we will be soliciting feedback from building administrators and directors on what do you see that staff actually need to be productive and successful throughout the school year. And then lastly, I just want to mention, oh no, there's two things I want to mention, sorry. And so one is the GCN training, which is our, the mandated training we really need to do through federal and state regulations that really help to provide employees with information to support a safe and healthy work environment. We have folks that don't actually have district-issued devices. A lot of them are our custodial workers, our monitors, and we even brought in some of our TAs. So what we did, Tom Drake, who is our Altiris, yep, it's getting late, consultant, Mr. Ricky and I actually hosted sessions where folks could sit through the 11 different modules and participate in those together. So it was a great way to bring people together and get these required trainings and done together. And then lastly, as I mentioned, the Board of Education, at the last Board of Education meeting, New York State amended their social services law, which was added this additional required training within New York State mandated identification and reporting of child abuse and maltreatment coursework. And so what the district decided to do this year, we have found a self-paced, web-based course that our staff can take. We provided time, a little bit of time during superintendent's conference days so that our teachers, our administrators, our TAs, our coaches could actually start the process of working through this course. It's important because as of April 1st, they have to have it done for their certification. And so this was really a way just to sort of springboard and get that process started. It's a joint effort between Claire's office and mine, and we will continue to remind people of this requirement as we get closer to the April 1st deadline. And that's it.
Thank you. Okay, now, Assistant Superintendent's update on facilities and sustainable learning environments.
Okay, thank you so much. Just to echo everyone else's comments about the opening day of school, as a cabinet, we all kind of split up and went to a different school. I was at Colonial. It's hard not to see those young students and not walk away feeling great and seeing those great smiling faces and some sad parent faces, but a lot of joy, and it was really a wonderful day. So this evening's agenda, we've got a couple of items, certainly. We're asking for ratification of the CSEA custodians contract, as we shared, and as a board directed. This contract falls within the guidance provided by the board. Certainly want to thank the board for that guidance, as well as the cooperation and work with our fellow employees for the CSEA negotiating committee. You know, I think we're very fortunate that we got a dedicated work staff. We may not always agree, but we always agree to keep talking because we know we both represent each sides, and that's our responsibility. So, you know, again, I think when you come to these negotiations, it's two parties, and I think we've done that fairly for our folks. So, again, thank you for your time with that. It was beginning of the year, as Dr. Fitzgerald said, we had our training, CPR, first aid, AED. This week, Dr. Champ, it was last week, I guess, Dr. Champ, John Condon, and I met with the architect to review the building conditions survey. That's information that they'll be here next week, and we anticipate having a facilities committee meeting prior to that. Scheduling that's been a little bit more difficult than usual, but we'll get back into our groove, I think, and we'll have a good time in setting that up. Again, this year we have facilities, finance, audit, safety. So all of those committees will be coming up with those meetings shortly, and we've kind of drafted committee meeting agendas or times and dates for the whole year. So I think that'll be helpful for everybody to build some predictability as we move forward. Very generous donation on tonight's agenda from our Prospect Hill PTA as part of an outdoor classroom project. In coordination with that, Assemblywoman Amy Paulin's office has worked to help the district to secure a grant. So we're going to work on that application as well. So we're very fortunate to have that. And at a future meeting, the PTA has expressed an interest to come and share the vision with the board of what that will be. And I think it'll be a wonderful expansion and program for our students at Prospect Hill. So again, that's to come, and it's really, again, it's a testament to our community and really the things that they want to provide for our students. Last week was a very difficult week, I think, safety-wise in schools, as we think about safety and really what happened in Georgia. with safety and school safety here, I mean, we certainly always think about these things, and of course, it's, easy, without a doubt, our hearts go out to those families, certainly with what happened in Georgia. We're still learning about what happened. We read a lot of the news reports. We have our Altaris representative and their back office that really work hard to find the debriefs and to provide learnings, because I think it's really important. We don't want to waste any information, any important information that we could gain from this, and we want to make sure that we have it. So as we go this, I mean, some things that we've learned. We certainly know that student had previously been interviewed by the FBI. I think that was in news reports, certainly displaying troubling behaviors within the school. And our district, certainly we do have a scientifically based threat assessment program that our building emergency response teams and our administrators have been briefed on how to use. We can use that for our students, our staff, and/or parents or guardians and visitors to our building. So it's something which, it's a tool. Again, it's one of many tools that we have. It's also being reported that the student first attempted to enter one room, but was thwarted by a locked door, and eventually entered in a room that was not locked. And our protocol district-wide is that we maintain our classroom doors in a locked position and closed when the rooms are occupied or unoccupied. Certainly, between changing periods, they're opened. But that's part of that, and we're going to work hard to reinforce that protocol district-wide. Because again, I think those people looking to do bad things are working very fast, and when they've got a locked door, they move along to the next door, and I think that's what we've seen in this instance. As we review the reunification process, I think we all saw it, all those cars and people at the football field. What happens after a tragic event like this? We do have a reunification process district-wide. It's a confidential process, but we do have reunification kits in different buildings throughout our district. Because, again, this is an important process, an after process of a tragedy, to make sure loved ones are able to get back together in a coordinated process. Certainly, it looks like from the footage there was a lot going on, and there's a lot of parents, and understandably so. But those are different learnings, and we can share and we can learn from that too. We heard a lot about the emergency pendants that the staff members have used, and that's really great to hear about that, and that's something that certainly I think we're all looking at and thinking about. I've had some experience in a previous workplace where we did have pendants. We faced a number of false activations I think some of us have worked in other places and had similar experiences or have seen similar things happen. So it's certainly a worry and one of those concerns, because when you have those false activations, you don't know it's a false activation till everyone has shown up. And you could have 30, 50 police officers, first responders, racing, really racing to an event because they think the worst is happening. And it's a matter of looking at how those things all work together. All those systems are also integrated with different PA systems, public address systems, and if we wanted to do something like that here in Pelham, that's something that we'd have to look at with the technology and the integration, which probably falls right into our building conditions study and different things like that. So again, there's a lot we're learning about this. We're going to learn more as time goes by. Tom Drake, who's our Altaris representative, is an open resource for all of our administrators and all of our staff members. And we're grateful for that. Again, we've got a depth of knowledge from Altaris as well. And he regularly meets with the building emergency response teams, and he and I meet weekly. And again, we try to work on what we can do to, again, strengthen our safety position district-wide. We learned, a couple of years ago, unfortunately, in Uvalde, we also learned what happens when doors are left open. And when that happened, again, that was something that we talked about, and we changed some practices at that point in time. We alarmed different doors. We made sure if doors were left open, you man them at the same time. You may see the main off the front door of the high school open at a certain time, but there should be someone standing right at that door, certainly at the beginning of the day or at a different time period. So we look at all these things, we take them seriously. Certainly, they're terrible. And as things go on, we're always looking to improve our practices. But thank you.
Thank you for going through that, Jim.
Jim, question. So I guess 2 years ago or a year ago, we received the grant from Senator Biaggi at that point?
Yes.
Where are we in the process?
So we're working through the grant process, and I think we're getting towards the end of that grant award process. Once that happens, we've already worked with the vendor as far as it's a surveillance project for surveillance cameras throughout the district. And then we'll be in a position to file our application with the state. And you need a building permit because everything's going to be becomes part of the building. We have to do this on our first camera project, and then we'll move forward with the installation and the implementation of that project. And really, what that does is that brings us to a point, I think, where we have one general set standard district-wide for district-wide surveillance. I think over the years, certainly when Dr. Champ and I started, the guidance that was shared with me when I came here was nobody wants any cameras inside, and people really weren't thrilled about cameras pointed outside either, because whether it's close in neighborhood or different things like that. Certainly, we know people have changed their thoughts over times. Our Hutchinson school is really probably the model of how we would cover a school based on video surveillance, and we're going to try to use that as a model with the grant when it finally fully comes through.
Quick change of subject.
Yes.
In the last meeting, I think I mentioned the community church, the Pelhams,
Yes.
that is up for sale, allegedly. And I think the idea was maybe to have an architect take a look at the building, and I'm sure that's coming along. But between then and now, I've been thinking that even if the building is in sort of a state of disrepair, as I think it probably is, based on what everyone says about it, I still think we should find some kind of format or forum in which to kind of think about just buying, potentially, the merits of buying that land, even if the building is not fit for purpose today, simply because, as we all know, there's not a lot of land in Pelham. When it comes up, we should probably think about whether it would be a good investment for the district. And we know about the themes of increasing student populations and so on and so forth. So I just want to keep that on the radar, and maybe in the facilities committee or in the appropriate forum, we could talk about whether or not we should consider buying that plot.
Thank you. And I think probably a good place for it to start and to have some discussions, probably in the facilities committee group, and then as part of our capital improvement plan. Again, just even if it's an aspirational plan, whether it's property acquisition, selected property acquisitions at different times, that's something that could be placed there if the committee and board feels that it's fit for that.
Okay. Okay. Let's move to Section 6, Financial Reports and Motions. 6.1, do I have a motion to approve 2024 to 2025 budget transfers?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, do we want to talk about this?
It's a larger budget transfer than we normally see earlier in the year. This is related to the collective bargaining agreements. Our Teachers Association agreement came after the budget was finalized. So really what we're doing is we're moving these dollars to the accounts where they'll be spent where we expect them to be spent this year with the expected increases.
Okay, any comments or questions? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, number 6.2, do I have a motion to approve appraisal services?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Okay, this is related to services we need in the discussions on Julianne's?
Yes.
Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? No. Okay, motion carries. And then 6.3, motion to accept amendment to the employment agreement between the Pelham Union Free School District and the Superintendent of Schools. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. We've all been working on this over time, so we're all familiar with it. Does anyone have any comments or questions before we vote on it?
Yeah, I mean, I could start with the contract for Dr. Champ. So, so about 2 years ago, right, I was elected to this great position of BOE trustee. And before I took my oath to become a BOE trustee, Dr. Champ's contract was approved by the previous board and negotiated. And I know, I at least remember, and I would like people to remember, there was a big scuffle about that. Because 3 of us were joining the board, and we'd had absolutely no say on Dr. Champ's contract. And not that we would have changed or not changed her contract, but we would have had loved to have a view. And as this time the contract became available again, or up for renewal, we wanted not only the board that was outgoing, but the new board to also have a view and a say, because it was just a fair thing to do. So I just want to make it very clear, this conversation started before the new board. The outgoing board members were on board with this decision, and the new board members, who could speak for themselves, were brought in and explained the contract, and I believe they also were on board with the decision. So I just want to make clear that old board, new board, everybody was together in this decision, and we have discussed this, and all have kind of agreed that we want to renew this contract. There are different terms, but that we want to go forward. So.
Yeah, and I think the sort of the difference in structure between how this contract has been traditionally renewed versus this year is that I think for prior renewals it was sort of a 3-year extension for a total of 5 years, because there are 2 years left on the existing contract. And I think we've taken a slightly different approach, which is to make it a 1-year extension that will sort of effectively automatically renew for 1 year, unless either side decides to not renew. And the reason why I think that's a kind of a good concept of just having a 1-year extension that sort of auto renews with an out on either side is because, while continuity of leadership is important, the makeup of the board does change fairly frequently. Who knows what this board will look like 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. And one of the board's primary responsibilities is the employment of the superintendent. And I generally don't like making decisions on behalf of future boards that removes their optionality. So I think that this structure is good because it gives some level of flexibility for future boards, whoever they may be in the future, while remaining continuity of our leadership. So that is why I think this structure works, and just philosophically I think is good for the district.
And I guess I'll say that I'm very pleased that we're approving, or I assume we'll all be voting yay on extending the contract, because we value stability and strong leadership, especially as we see we're embarking on implementing the new strategic plan. And Dr. Champ, you've shown an unwavering commitment to the district, and I've known you since before being on the board. And I think it's we have an exciting year to look forward to. So I'm really glad that we've come to the type of contract that Will described. I think it's a good one.
No, just want to second that. Really looking forward to this and the thoughtfulness and the process of the board as incoming new board members. So looking forward to it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? No, the motion carries.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And I do have to, I want to thank you really for the collaboration and the openness for the conversations. I have loved my 7 years in Pelham, and I am thrilled to be looking ahead to delivering on the strategic plan and everything that the next few years are going to hold. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Welcome. Okay. 6.4, motion to, do I have a motion to approve a memorandum of agreement with Pelham Union Free School District? This is the CSEA Building Services Employment.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Jim discussed this a bit in his report. Do we have any comments or questions? No? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
No, I was just going to say, I'm very happy that
Oh,
the contract,
she had a comment. Yeah.
very happy that it got to
And
a
maybe I'll
contract.
second that since we paused. We really, Jim, I know, and Dr. Garcia before he left, had really great collaborative conversations with the unit. As you saw, they do incredible work, and we're really just pleased to have reached a 4-year agreement with them that I think all parties believe is fair, and we just appreciate their collaboration, their partnership.
Commitment.
And
Yeah.
commitment to the district. They are some of the first people that I met when I walked in the door, and some of the finest people that you will ever meet in the building services unit. So, yep.
And some of them made time for our walkthrough.
Yes.
Yes,
Wonderful.
yes. Yep, yep. Yeah, and very talented crew, too. I think that's the other thing you were able to see. They give of their time and their talents. And there's many things that they do for us that, because of their skill level, that we would otherwise have to, go outside for. So not only are they great people, they're hardworking and talented. So happy to have an agreement.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? No? So the motion carries. We'll move to 6.5, which is, may I have a motion to accept a donation? I think it's 2 donations.
So moved?
Second.
Okay. I will read the donations. One is from Pelham Civics, and the other is from the Prospect Hill PTA. So resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education of the Pelham Union Free School District, should I read the? This is what I'm reading? Okay. The Board of Education of the Pelham Union Free School District does hereby accept the monetary donation of $30,737.39 for the Pelham Memorial High School Academy Plus after-school program, and gratitude be bestowed upon its donor, the Pelham Civic Association. Be it further resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education of the Pelham Union Free School District does hereby accept the monetary donation of $72,000 for the purpose of an outdoor classroom on the Prospect Hill Elementary School grounds, and that gratitude be bestowed upon its donor, the Prospect Hill Elementary School Parent Teacher Association. So thank you to Pelham Civics and the Prospect Hill PTA. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? The motion carries. If we can move, we'll move to Section 7. I think we can take 7.1 and 7.4 as a consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
7.1 through 7.4?
Yes.
Oh, what did I say?
You said and.
7.1 through 7.4.
So moved?
Okay, any questions or comments?
I'll just add, I know Dr. Fitzgerald touched on several of these. So it's a lot of hiring, leave of absence, et cetera, extra duty appointments. Those are a lot of the stipended positions that are based in the teacher's contract for extra work that folks do, everything from, coordinating departments, scheduling assistants, MTSS chairs, club advisors, et cetera. The other item that I would highlight within theirs too is we're just doing some catch-up approvals on terms and conditions for cabinet level folks as well. So that's included in tonight's agenda, amongst other things.
Were there some student teachers? That's exciting.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 8.1, do I have a motion to approve a Schedule D?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? No? Okay, Section 9, does anyone have new business? No? Okay, are there more communications and comments from the public? No? Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
you.